Good morning or afternoon, whichever the case may be. I'm Nate York, and this is my problem solving brief. So the problem I'll be addressing today doesn't directly affect 19th Air Force, however it does directly affect our subordinate units, specifically the weapons loaders that are out on the flight line. They're loading up these bombs and bullets and missiles to make sure our pilots are getting the training that they need to get out into the field and be capable of employing munitions in a deployment scenario. As you can see, each aircraft has a multitude of munitions capabilities. This example of the F-16 on the right just kind of gives you an idea of the different munitions that can be loaded on these aircraft. Now these guys on the right hand side at the bottom, that's an example of a load cruise. They're comprised of 3 people, and they have to ensure that they get these munitions up in a timely manner. They need to be able to do it safe, and it has to be proficiently done to make sure that these munitions are going to release as advertised. In order to do this, they utilize digital checklists to accomplish these tasks. Now, these are in a portable tablet, and it's just a myriad of PDF files, and once they get them open, depending on the munitions that they need to be loading, it can be very cumbersome and difficult to navigate through these checklists in order to get the appropriate steps that they need to successfully load these munitions onto the aircraft. Okay, so now that I've talked a little bit about myself, my organization, and the career field that this affects, let's talk about now the actual problem and what it is that I'm trying to get after. So, developed a problem statement. As you see, aircraft weapons loading is taking too long, leading to missed sorties and late takeoffs. Munitions reliability has decreased and safety incidents have increased. In combination, this has led to producing ineffective pilots, leading to an overall decrease in combat capability. So now I'm going to go into a couple of methods that I use to determine what the root cause is of this problem. So now that I've defined what the problem is, I did a SWOT analysis to help kind of pinpoint some of the factors that could potentially play into the problem. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In this case, some of the strengths are the fact that the guys are actually able to load these munitions to help get the pilots the training they need to be combat effective. Another strength is that the load training itself is standardized. So regardless of whether these guys PCS in or they're straight out of tech school, they all get the same initial training and should be able to produce the same desired effect. Now, some of the weaknesses could be operations tempo. Maybe the pilots are asking too much. They want to fly too many aircraft and they want to change configurations, and it's just taxing on the individuals. There's late munitions deliveries and unrealistic turn times sometimes. Whenever they come back from the first go, you have to get those planes reloaded and able for them to make their second mission. Sometimes that time frame is just too short. Some opportunities to fix some of these problems could be faster delivery times. Maybe you can coordinate better with ammo to make that happen. You could also have better communications with the ops schedulers, making sure that you are on the same page. You know what munitions are required, that way you can get with ammo and you can get them out in a timely manner. The only threat I can come up with is weather. You really can't help it. Sometimes it's bad. If it's lightning, you're just not loading. Now in this step, I put together a value stream map. This shows kind of the ideal state of where we want to be if we had unlimited resources, unlimited funding, with no roadblocks in our way, and also kind of where we're at right now in our current state. So as you can see, the ideal state, beginning, the aircraft need to be loaded for pilot training, in the story. The correct munitions scheduled in coordination with ops. The munitions will be delivered on time, and the munitions will be loaded without incident, quickly and reliably. That's where we want to be. Currently, the aircraft still need to be loaded for pilot training. There's some scheduling conflicts that occur, often result in incorrect munitions deliveries. Sometimes munitions deliveries are delayed. This is resulting in the actual aircraft loading taking too long. Sometimes there's incidents, people getting hurt, damage to equipment, and it's often unreliable. They're taking off, the pilots are going to fire off and drop these munitions, and they're hung. So that's the current state. So in this step, I made a gap analysis, basically to identify some action steps that can be taken to get from the current state to the ideal state. As you can see, the ideal state, the munitions will be scheduled correctly, they'd be delivered on time, and the weapons loading will be done quickly, reliably, and safely. Current state, there is some scheduling deficiencies. There is delays in munitions deliveries, and the weapons loading is slow, sometimes unreliable, and is resulting in some incidents. Now, these action steps that we could take would be to enhance the scheduling effectiveness, better coordination with ops to make sure that we're getting them what they need to get their pilots upgraded, communicate the deliveries more effectively, work on that relationship and communication between the weapons loaders and the ammo guys, and basically next streamline the loading process itself. So the next step I've taken is to actually establish what the goal is as it relates to solving this problem. As you can see, the goal is to streamline the process to enable faster and more efficient weapons loading. I use the SMART method to help pinpoint some of those improvement target areas. SMART stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. And breaking that down a little further, the specifics, the scheduling effectiveness, communications with the ammo, and streamlining the load process itself. Some things that you can use to measure would be the number of times that incorrect munitions deliveries have taken place, anytime there was a late delivery, and anytime there was a late takeoff or an actual cancellation due to the fact that the loaders were just slow. Some of the things that are actionable, so you can work on increasing that scheduling effectiveness, working with the ops guys better, enhancing that communication with ammo, as I stated previously, and just figuring out a way to streamline the loading process itself, make it faster. The R, the relevant, basically you got to determine which of these issues is causing the majority of your problems and focus on that to help solve the ultimate problem. And time-bound, I think should be remedied by current year 21, so basically by next year should have a solution in place. So the next step I took in this process is to build a fishbone diagram. Now essentially the intent of the fishbone diagram is to break the problem down into main categories and then further subdivide those main categories into lower levels. This helps you get some more information that you can analyze in order to determine what the root cause of the problem actually is. Now in this case, one of the main categories is scheduling effectiveness. Basically, is ops and the maintenance guys sitting down and figuring out what needs to be on the flying schedule? Are there deviations to the flying schedule after it's already been published? It could also be another category is communications with ammo. Are they getting the flying schedule on time? Do they know what they're supposed to be bringing out? Are the weapons expediters communicating with those guys in ammo control to let them know exactly where they need to be and when they need to be there? Or could it potentially be the tech data itself? There tends to be a lot of unnecessary steps in these PDFs, and just navigating through the digital checklist is proven to be difficult. As you can see, I've done some analyzing already and determined that the root cause is in fact the tech data. Now the other two, scheduling effectiveness and the comms with ammo, do have their issues, but they're not consistent. It's a one-off basis and they don't happen all the time. However, the guys are always having issues fumbling with their tech data, and that's one of the main causes why the loads are slow. Now that I've determined the root cause for slow weapons loading is the tech data, I'll now break it down further using the 5 whys method to figure out what exactly is wrong with the tech data. So the first question I asked is, why are the loaders consistently slow? And that's due to the complexity of the tech data. Why is the tech data overly complex? Basically because it contains steps that don't necessarily apply. Why does the checklist contain steps that do not apply? Basically because the checklists are written generically to encompass a large variety of munitions and different weapons configurations. I think that a good countermeasure to combat the issues with tech data would be to establish a software program that filters out all the unnecessary steps, basically depending on what munitions you're loading and on what aircraft, tailor it down into one useful PDF. Generally during a load, you're utilizing 4 to 5 PDF checklists, and they can contain upwards of 800 plus steps, and usually you're only using about 300 of those steps, so that equates to roughly 35% of the steps that are in there are unnecessary. I think with a little bit of funding, that the weapons community across the Air Force could benefit from this program. In terms of implementation and sustainment, I think that this program could be funded, developed, and implemented within a year. It could easily be integrated into our existing loading tablets, and familiarization training could begin immediately. It could also be embedded with our existing electronic technical management office, and that'll help to just curb some of the costs associated with maintaining the software. Now I think the ideal sustainment plan would be the 6 S's, mainly because it has a focus on organization, standardization, and safety, which is kind of what we're getting after with this problem. In conclusion, I think that the development of smart checklists will ultimately solve the problem of the weapons loaders being slow. It'll decrease incidents, increase munitions reliability, and overall, it'll make our pilots more combat capable. Here's some references. Thanks for watching. Now cue the televator for a dramatic exit.